Grade 4. Grade 4 is the lowest rank for Jujutsu sorcerers, usually meant for beginners or those with little experience in the field. It's basically the starting point for new students who are still learning the ropes. Sorcerers at this level are only expected to handle minor curses or weak spirits that don't pose much of a threat. Cursed spirits follow the same ranking system as sorcerers. Grade 4 curses are the weakest of the bunch, so weak that a sorcerer could take them down with something as simple as a wooden baseball bat. Because of that, only a handful of curse users are officially recognized as Grade 4, since most sorcerers quickly move up once they prove themselves. One of the rare exceptions is Maki Zenin, a second year at Tokyo Jujutsu High, who officially is listed as Grade 4 despite being way more skilled than that title suggests. Her situation isn't due to lack of talent, it's because of her own family, the Zenin clan, deliberately keeps her rank low. The Zenin are one of the big three sorcerer families, alongside Gojo and the Kamo clans, known for their strict traditions and obsession with cursed energy. Unfortunately for Maki, she was born without the ability to see curses or use cursed techniques, which made her an outcast in her own home. The Zenin clan viewed her as a failure for not inheriting their powerful cursed techniques, and this prejudice shaped most of her early life. Maki's twin sister, Mai Zenin, has some cursed energy and can see curses, though she isn't particularly powerful either. The two share a complicated relationship, one marked by jealousy, resentment, and very different ideas of strength. Where Mai accepts the family rules, Maki refuses to let those same traditions define her. That rebellion comes at a cost, as the clan uses its influence to block her from rising through the ranks, keeping her officially stuck at Grade 4. Even so, Maki finds her own path as a Jujutsu sorcerer. Since she can't naturally perceive curses, she uses a pair of special glasses imbued with cursed energy, allowing her to see them. And while she likes cursed energy, she was born with a heavenly restriction, a rare condition that trades away cursed energy for exceptional physical ability. This gives her superhuman strength, speed, and reflexes that rivaled seasoned sorcerers who constantly reinforce their bodies with cursed energy. Maki might not be able to use cursed techniques, but she doesn't need to. She compensates by mastering cursed tools or weapons infused with cursed energy that can harm spirits. Her skills with these tools is unmatched. She's proficient with all kinds of weapons, spears, polearms, and katanas, and can switch between them mid-fight without losing momentum. Her technique is sharp enough that she even helped train Yuta Akatsu when he first joined Jujutsu High. One of the best examples of her combat ability comes during the fight against Hanami. Maki starts off using a katana, but when it breaks, Megumi Fushiguro hands her a playful cloud, a tricky weapon made of 3 connected rods without any special cursed ability. Despite its awkward design, Maki wields it like it's second nature. Most sorcerers struggle with Playful Cloud, but she turns into a natural extension of herself. Through sheer effort and training, she turns her supposed weakness into her greatest advantage, and this is only the beginning of her story. Once she fully awakens her potential before the events of the Culling game, her strength skyrockets to a level that completely dwarfs the label of Grade 4. So while the ranking system might officially put her at the bottom, anyone who's seen Maki in action knows that she's operating on a completely different level. Calling her a Grade 4 sorcerer is basically a joke at this point. The only reason she's stuck there is because of clan politics and her lack of cursed energy, not her actual power. Once she reaches her full potential, that gap between her official grade and her real strength becomes impossible to ignore. Putting Maki in this category doesn't really mean much since she clearly deserves a higher rank. We'll get to that part where she actually earns that recognition soon enough.
Gamer Supps is an energy and nootropic formula designed to be a healthier, cheaper, and more effective beverage over energy drinks for gamers or the modern anime weeb on the go. Its blend of essential vitamins, caffeine, and nootropics provide a consistent boost with no jitters and no crash. It has 0 sugar, less than 1 carb, and less than 1 calorie per serving, so it's keto and diabetic safe. Plus there's sugar-free options. I personally drink it all the time to be able to grind out these straight to the point and informative videos for you guys, and they'll likely be the only sponsor you'll ever see on this channel. So help the channel stay mostly sponsor free by clicking the link in our description, picking from the many tasty and uniquely named flavors on the website, and use our code ANIMEX at checkout to save 10% on your order. It would be a huge help for us. Also, pick yourself up a aesthetically interesting waifu cup while you're at it too. They're collectible. But anyway.
Grade 3. Grade 3 sorcerers are basically the middle ground in the Jujutsu world. They move past the beginner phase but haven't quite reached the level where they can be trusted to handle high-risk curses on their own. Most students at Jujutsu High School start off at around this level once they've shown some skill and control over their cursed energy. Their abilities are solid, but they still need more experience and power to reach higher grades. Like Grade 4 sorcerers, Grade 3s usually aren't allowed to take on missions alone. They're often paired with a higher ranked sorcerer who acts as a supervisor or backup. If they're lucky enough to have a Grade 1 or special grade escort, that person typically hangs back and only steps in if things get out of hand. On the cursed side, Grade 3 curses are stronger than the weakest ones, but still manageable. They can be dangerous to civilians, but for trained sorcerers, they're nothing too serious. A handgun is usually enough to deal with them. There are two known Grade 3 sorcerers in the series, Mai Zenin and Nobara Kugisaki. Both have very different fighting styles and personalities, but each represents what a capable Grade 3 can do. Starting with Mai Zenin, she's the twin sister of Maki Zenin, and unlike her sister, Mai was born with cursed energy and a technique. However, her cursed energy output is extremely low, and her technique is one of the most inefficient in the series. Still, because Maki left the Zenin clan to pursue her own path as a sorcerer, Mai was forced into the same line of work to uphold the clan's reputation. She becomes a second-year student at Kyoto Jujutsu High, though her resentment towards Maki only grows over time. Mai's innate technique is called construction, which lets her create physical objects out of nothing. The catch is that it consumes nearly all her cursed energy every time she uses it, meaning that she could only create one object per day. Because of how much energy it drains, using the technique even once can leave her exhausted or bleeding. To make the most of her limited energy, Mai uses a revolver as her main weapon. She typically loads 6 bullets and fires them using cursed energy reinforcement, but her real trick is creating a 7th bullet using construction. The extra bullet often catches opponents off guard since they assume she's out of ammo. During the Kyoto Sister School Goodwill event, Mai and Maki face off in the Spirit Bash race. Mai tries to shoot Maki from a distance, but Maki easily cuts the bullet mid-air. Maki then dodges the following shots, closes in, and kicks Mai before she can recover. Thinking that Maki has countered all 6 bullets, Mai secretly uses construction to create one more. She fires her 7th shot, believing that it will end the fight, but Maki catches the bullet barehanded, burning her hand in the process. The moment proves how massive the gap between the sisters has become. Maki sets her sword beside Mai as a quiet sign of victory before leaving her defeated. Mai later appears during the Shibuya incident, where she uses a sniper rifle to support her allies from afar, firing real bullets at long range. But after the incident, things take a dark turn. She returns home only to be brutally beaten by her father, Oki Zenin. When Maki shows up and sees Mai in this condition, their father ambushes them both, defeats them, and throws them into the clan's disciplinary pit, a cursed chamber filled with deadly spirits meant to kill them. As the two sisters lie wounded, Mai manages to stand and approach Maki. Inside a calm, beach-like mental space, Mai explains that her construction technique can create one last object, but it'll cost her her life. She tells Maki that the twins are seen as bad omens among sorcerers because the cursed energy technique treats them as one being. No matter how hard Maki trains, she can't grow stronger unless Mai's will aligns with hers. So to free her sister from that limitation, Mai decides to die, taking all their cursed energy with her and leaving Maki with full control of her heavenly restriction. Before fading away, she creates a katana and hands it to Mai as her final gift, asking her to destroy everything. When Maki wakes up, Mai is gone and the new katana rests in her hand. From that point on, Maki's power skyrockets. She reaches a level equal to Toji Fushiguro, a sorcerer field even by special grades. The other known Grade 3 sorcerer is Nobara Kugisaki, a first-year student at Tokyo Jujutsu High. From the start, Nobara shows strong potential and confidence, with a combat style that mixes cursed energy precision and clever strategy. Her innate technique, straw draw technique, lets her link her cursed energy to an effigy, usually a straw doll, so that any damage she inflicts on the doll transfers directly to her target. Her tools are simple but deadly: a hammer, a handful of nails, and a straw doll. By channeling cursed energy through the nails, Nobara can perform several attacks, including resonance, which damages her target internally by linking their body to an effigy, and hairpin, which makes her cursed energy-infused nails explode after being embedded in a surface. She often uses her hammer to drive the nails into opponents or into her straw doll from a distance. Despite the simplicity of her weapons, Nobara's precision and quick thinking makes her extremely dangerous in battle. Even during the Kyoto Goodwill event, where she was ultimately eliminated, Nobara showed strong tactical awareness and control over her cursed energy. But her real growth shines later, when she and Yuji face off against the death painting wombs, Eso and Kachizu. Both are special grade curses, far beyond what a grade 3 should normally handle. During the fight, Nobara and Yuji are poisoned by the brothers' blood technique, but instead of panicking, Nobara figures out how to use that same connection to her advantage. She drives nails into her own arm to activate resonance, transferring the damage to Esso and Kachizu at the same time. The self-inflicted pain heightens her cursed energy focus, allowing her to perform Black Flash, an advanced technique that momentarily multiplies a sorcerer's power. Together with Yuji, Nobara defeats both curses, proving that her instincts and combat awareness can match higher-ranked sorcerers. Later in the Shibuya incidents, Nobara refuses to retreat despite being ordered to. She runs into Mahito's double, one of the most dangerous cursed spirits alive. Unlike with previous enemies, Nobara has intel on Mahito's ability to manipulate souls, and she uses that knowledge to build a plan. She pretends to attack his physical body, but her real goal is to use her straw dog technique on his soul. When Mahito underestimates her, she lands a direct hit and damages his soul, a feat that very few can accomplish. Realizing how dangerous she is, Mahito retreats and swaps places with his double. In a tragic turn, the original Mahito touches Nobara, causing her face to explode from the transfiguration. Yuji watches in horror as she collapses, seemingly dead. However, Nobara later recovers, sporting an eye patch after her injuries heal. During the final confrontation against Sukuna, she rejoins the fight alongside Yuji and other sorcerers. With Urahime and Gakuganji coordinating the battle, Nobara uses resonance on Sukuna's last remaining finger, binding the King of Curses long enough for Yuji to finish the job. There's also an in-between rank called Semi-Grade 2, which sits just above Grade 3. The difference between the two isn't that big, so it makes sense to group them together. Not much is known about why this rank even exists, but we do have one known example, and he's one of the most unique characters in Jujutsu Kaisen, Panda. Despite looking like a giant talking panda, he's not a real animal. Panda is an abrupt mutation cursed corpse, a type of artificial lifeform created by Masamichi Yaga, the principal of Jujutsu High. He's also a second-year student at the school and is one of the most physically gifted fighters. Even without relying much on cursed techniques, Panda can exercise curses just by using his raw strength. His body is incredibly durable and can be reinforced with cursed energy, making him tough to damage even by high-level opponents. Panda's shown just how durable he is multiple times. He can go toe-to-toe with strong fighters like Aoi Todo, shrug off Mekamaru's Ultra Cannon, and even survive the full impact of Mekamaru's strongest attack. To actually take Panda down, an enemy would have to destroy his cursed energy cores. These act like hearts inside his body. Panda has 3 cores in total: the Panda Core, which is balance, the Gorilla Core, which focuses on power, and a third core, known as Triceratops, tied to his sister. Each core represents a different personality and fighting style. If one core is destroyed, Panda loses access to that form until it recovers. However, he is clever enough to manipulate his cursed energy and fake the location of these cores, which helps him protect his weak points in battle. When Panda switches to his gorilla mode, he channels his brother's core and transforms into a more muscular version of himself, while still keeping his black and white color scheme. This form massively boosts his strength and speed, but drains his cursed energy quickly. In gorilla mode, his attacks gain an extra effect called Unblockable Drumming Beat. Any hit he lands sends a shockwave through the opponent's body, dealing damage even if they try to block. It's basically impossible to defend against cleanly. Panda also has a Triceratops mode, which comes from his sister's core. When he switches to this form, he becomes slimmer and more feminine, with a large Triceratops-style head. Panda once joked that this form destroys everyone who looks at her, because of her shyness, but in reality, we never got to see what it can actually do. During the Colon game, this form was destroyed in a single attack by Hajime Kashimo, one of the strongest players in the arc. Even after that brutal fight, Panda survived by reverting into a smaller chibi-like version of himself. Despite his injuries, he managed to pull through, and somehow became even cuter in the process. Grade 2. Grade 2 is where sorcerers start stepping out of the student category and into the ranks of real fighters. This level represents above average skill, with most professional sorcerers hovering between grades 1 and 2. So while they're not quite among the elite, they're definitely far from weak. Being a grade 2 sorcerer means that you're capable enough to handle solo missions and take on tougher curses without constant supervision. And if a student earns this rank early on, that's a big deal. It basically marks them as a prodigy. One of the most notable grade 2s is Megumi Fushiguro, a first-year student at Tokyo Jujutsu High. He's part of the Zenin clan by blood, though he was born outside of it as Toji Fushiguro's son. Toji saw him as his trump card, but after Toji's death, Gojo discovered Megumi's potential and took him under his wing. Gojo not only became his mentor, but also believed that Megumi could one day surpass even him, which is saying something considering Gojo's unmatched power. Megumi inherited the 10 Shadows technique, one of the Zenin clan's most prized abilities. This curse technique lets him summon up to 10 Shikigami using shadows as a medium. It gives him full control over shadows themselves. He can hide in them, store objects inside, and use them as extensions of his body. Some of his known Shikigami include Divine Dogs, Nu, Great Serpent, Toad, Max Elephant, and the most dangerous of all, Maharaga. Maharaga is the ultimate Shikigami of the Ten Shadows technique, and no user in history has ever fully tamed it. When Megumi summons Maharaga, it's only as a last resort, since the creature attacks both ally and enemy alike. It's basically a fight-ending move that risks Megumi's own life in the process. Megumi also has its own domain expansion called Chimera Shadow Garden. When activated, it floods the area with liquid shadows that can spawn any Shikigami he wants almost instantly. While the domain is incomplete and doesn't have a guaranteed hit effect, it pushes the Ten Shadows technique to around 120% of its normal capability. Within it, Megumi can even clone himself or his Shikigami from the shadows. The downside is that he can't form a complete barrier, so he needs to overlap it with an enclosed space to trap his opponents inside. Megumi's potential draws massive interest from Sukuna, the king of curses, who coexists inside Yuji's body. Sukuna recognizes how powerful the Ten Shadows technique could be and sees Megumi as a better vessel than Yuji. He believes that through Megumi, he could gain more control and perhaps even find a way to defeat Gojo. Maharaga's adaptive nature especially catches Sukuna's attention during the Shibuya incident, when Megumi summons it. He realizes that Maharaga's ability to adapt to any attack might be the key to countering Gojo's infinity. During the Culling game, Sukuna puts his plan into motion. He force-feeds Megumi one of his severed fingers, allowing him to take over Megumi's body. After performing the Bathing in Evil ritual, Sukuna kills Yorozu, who's inhabiting Sumiki's body, Megumi's sister. This act crushes Megumi's spirit completely, leaving him in despair and giving Sukuna full control of his body and soul. Off-screen, Sukuna manages to do what no Ten-Shadowed user could. He tames Maharaga. He later uses it in his legendary battle against Gojo, and Maharaga's adaptive power becomes the deciding factor in the strongest sorcerer's defeat. However, Megumi's story doesn't end there. During Sukuna's fight with Yuji, Yuji manages to damage the barrier separating Sukuna and Megumi's souls. He reached out to Megumi, trying to pull him back. Though words alone don't bring Megumi back, Yuji's emotional plea and tears spark something inside him. Megumi regains a flicker of his will and uses his shadow to restrain Sukuna, giving Yuji the opening to land a devastating black flash. As Sukuna tries to regain control, he torments Megumi with memories of his sister's death, his failures, and all the pain he's endured. But Megumi refuses to give in. He calls out Sukuna's desperation and the fact that the King of Curses is now fighting just to survive. That moment of defiance breaks Sukuna's grip completely, freeing Megumi's body and soul at last. Sukuna's attempt to reclaim control fails, and his body begins to crumble away. Megumi is not the only one in this rank though. Another notable Grade 2 sorcerer is Takuma Ino, a close ally of Kento Nanami, who also operates under Tokyo Jujutsu High. Ino's curse technique activates when he hides his face behind his mask, turning himself into a spiritual medium capable of summoning 4 auspicious beasts: Kaichi, Reki, Kirin, and Ryu. Each beast grants him a different ability. Kaichi takes the form of a horn that he can fire like a projectile wrapped in cursed energy, relentlessly chasing its target. Reki coats Ino's body in cursed water, which cushions him from damage and enhances his agility. Kirin boasts his combat performance by nullifying his sense of pain through a kind of internal doping effect, and Ryu manifests as a massive dragon-like entity that bursts forth from Ino's body and crashes into his enemies with devastating force. Despite not having the flashiest abilities in the series, Ino's technique offers strong offense, defense, and utility all in one, making him a versatile and reliable sorcerer in the field. He might not have the spotlight like Megumi, but his skill level and experience make him a solid example of what a capable Grade 2 sorcerer looks like. There's also another in-between rank, just above Grade 2, called Semi-Grade 1. The difference between the two isn't that big, so we'll just group them together similar like the last one. Sorcerers who reach this level are usually those who completed several missions after being recommended for a full Grade 1 promotion and performed well enough to be recognized, but not quite enough to get the full title. One of the most well-known Semi-Grade 1 sorcerers is Toge Inumaki, a second-year student at Tokyo Jujutsu High. He comes from the Inumaki clan and inherited their signature curse technique, Curse Speech. Because his words carry power, Toge avoids regular speech to prevent accidentally cursing people around him. Instead, he communicates using ingredients from rice balls. His vocabulary is simple but effective. Salmon means yes, fish flakes means no, kelp is a greeting, caviar is a curse word, and tuna is his way of calling attention. The rest is mostly gibberish. Over time, his friends learn to understand his quirky speech pattern. He bears the clan's snake eyes and fangs seal on his tongue and the sides of his mouth, which allow him to channel cursed energy into his words. When he speaks, his command forces those who hear him, whether people, curses, or even objects, to obey. The stronger the command, the more strain it puts on his body. Against weaker curses, he can exercise them instantly without much trouble, but when facing stronger opponents, even simple commands could drain his stamina or cause backlash. His voice-based attacks can travel to amplifiers or communication devices like phones or megaphones, meaning distance doesn't weaken his technique. He has used a variety of commands over time. Explode makes his target violently detonate, which he used to wipe out swarms of weak curses in one go. Get Twisted or Twist mangles an enemy's limbs until they're useless, and Get Crushed completely flattens a target, which he used to finish off a semi-grade 1 curse. Don't Move and Stop are his go-to defensive commands, used to immobilize enemies or even their attacks. He used these against Aoitoto, Hanami, transfigured humans, and even Sukuna himself. His Blast Away command creates a massive shockwave strong enough to send a special grade curse flying into a building. Using cursed speech constantly takes a toll on his body. It causes severe throat irritation, and when pushed too far, he can cough up blood. Because of this, he always carries cough syrup to soothe his throat mid-fight, letting him use his technique longer before hitting his limit. Another notable semi-grade 1 is Urahime Iori, a teacher and student supervisor at Kyoto Jujutsu High. Her innate technique, Solo Forbidden Area, temporarily boosts the curse energy output of any sorcerer within its range, including herself. She can turn this ability into a full-blown ritual using hand signs, chanting, music, and dance, increasing its amplification up to 120%. This makes her an excellent support sorcerer, especially in coordinated missions. Before Gojo's final fight against Sukuna, Urahime uses her technique to amplify Gojo's curse energy to the maximum, allowing him to unleash an even more powerful Hollow Purple. Also within this category is Noritoshi Kamo, heir to the prestigious Kamo family. He wields their inherited curse technique, blood manipulation, which lets him control his own blood as a weapon, forming projectiles, shipping it midair, and even enhancing his physical abilities. It's a high-level technique that demands incredible control, making Noritoshi one of the more promising sorcerers from the Kyoto school. There's also Kokichi Muta, another Kyoto second year better known through his creation, Ultimate Mechamaru. Due to a heavenly restriction, Kokichi was born with a frail, immobile body that prevented him from attending school in person. However, the restriction blessed him with immense curse energy, which he channels into his remote control puppet, Mechamaru. Through it, Kokichi can fight, train, and even interact with others as though he were physically present. Despite his condition, he's one of Kyoto's most skilled and intelligent sorcerers, known for his precise control and combat analysis. Grade 1. Grade 1 sorcerers are basically the gold standard in Jujutsu society, the level everyone below them aims to reach. They're the ones trusted with the most dangerous missions, the highest confidentiality, and of course the best paychecks. It's also the highest rank that can be earned naturally since special grade sorcerers are usually outliers with unique, overwhelming power rather than people who climb the ranks the usual way. The best known example of a grade 1 sorcerer is Kento Nanami. Back in his school days at Tokyo Jujutsu High, Nanami was actually an underclassman of Satoru Gojo and Suguru Geto. After graduation, he decided to leave the whole sorcerer life behind and work as a salaryman, but the corporate world wasn't exactly fulfilling. 4 years later, he came back to Jujutsu High and got back to doing what he did best, exercising curses. He operated mainly out of the Tokyo campus and later became Yuji's mentor after Gojo introduced them. He was known for his calm, disciplined attitude, and at one point even held the record for the most consecutive black flashes, 4 in a row, before Yuji tied it. In battle, Nanami fights with a blunt sword wrapped in a cloth with a dotted black pattern. The same pattern shows up on his tie, which he sometimes wraps around his fist when things get serious. He uses both to apply his innate technique, the ratio technique. This ability divides a target into 10 lines and automatically creates a weak spot at the point where the ratio is 7:3. It doesn't matter what part of his body he targets. It could be the head, torso, limbs, or even non-living objects. If he marks it, it's going down. He can take this even further with an extension technique called Collapse. It works the same way, except it's used on the environment instead of an enemy. By forcing a weak point into the surroundings, he can destroy entire areas with a single strike, which he demonstrated when trapping Mahito underground. Then there's his signature Binding Bow. Over time, he literally treats exercising curses like clocking in at a job. While he's on official duty, he limits his curse energy output to around 80 to 90%, but once he goes past his regular work hours, his power spikes up to 110 to 120%. It's a self-imposed system that lets him hit even harder when he's quote-unquote off the clock. He can technically ignore the foul and go full power anytime, but then the overtime boost would only give him a measly 1% increase, so he sticks to his schedule. Sharing the same rank is Mei, another top-grade sorcerer with a very different approach. She works independently, only taking missions for money, and she's unapologetically straightforward about it. Her innate technique, Blackbird Manipulation, allows her to control crows by infusing them with cursed energy. She can command multiple birds at once, even from far away, and share their vision to scoot or track enemies. But the real power of her technique comes from Bird Strike. It's a deadly move where she makes a binding vow with a bird, forcing it to sacrifice itself to unleash an attack far beyond normal limits. The bird, supercharged with cursed energy, launches itself at the target and hits with enough force to exercise a special grade in one shot. Only Gojo, Kenjaku, and Sukuna have ever survived it. Originally, Mei thought that her technique was weak because it only worked on birds, so she trained herself to fight effectively without relying on it. Her physical combat skills are no joke. She completely destroyed Niji Ibina, a cursed user on semi-grade 1 level, without breaking a sweat. Her weapon of choice is a massive two-handed axe, nearly as tall as she is. One swing from this axe is enough to kill a cursed user or sever the limbs of a special graded cursed spirit. During her fight with the smallpox deity, she was trapped underground in a coffin and buried under a gravestone. She broke through both in under 3 seconds, repeating the feat multiple times and getting faster each attempt, showing that her raw strength is on par with her intelligence and precision. Then there is Aoi Todo, a third-year student from Kyoto Jujutsu High who somehow managed to become a grade 1 sorcerer while still in school. Even more impressive, he was born into a non-sorcerer family. Todo's fighting style is brutal and straightforward. He prefers getting up close and personal, relying on raw strength and relentless physical attacks like punches, stomps, and elbow smashes. His cursed technique, Boogie Woogie, adds a strategic twist to his brawler style. With just a clap, he can instantly swap the position of anything with cursed energy within his range. He can switch himself with an opponent, swap to other people, or even use the environment to confuse enemies. The best part is that he doesn't need to clap his own hands together. He can activate the technique by clapping someone else's hand, which he proved when he did it with Mahito. After losing his left hand in that same fight, he later replaced it with a Vibra Slap and developed a new version called Boogie Woogie Revised. Instead of clapping, he triggers the ability by hitting the metal piece with a Vibra Slap against a wooden box. This change lets him perform up to 50 swaps per second if he needs to. He can even extend his range and target through a binding bow that limits the number of swaps per hit. Aside from them, there are a few other notable grade 1 sorcerers worth mentioning. Atsuya Kusakabe, for example, is the instructor for the second-year students at Tokyo Jujutsu High. Despite not having an especially flashy technique, he's a veteran with solid combat experience and tactical sense. And then there's Masamichi Yaga, the former principal of Tokyo Jujutsu High, who is best known for creating Panda, a living cursed corpse capable of independent thought and emotion. Special Grade 1. Special Grade 1 sorcerers are a unique classification in Jujutsu Kaisen. They're basically sorcerers who can match the power and skill of a Grade 1, but operate independently from Jujutsu High. They don't follow the school's official rules or procedures, yet they work with it through cooperation agreements. So this title doesn't necessarily mean they're above Grade 1, it's more of an equivalent rank for those who exist outside the institution's structure. Think of them as freelance elites who still get the same level of recognition. Only 4 sorcerers are known to hold this title, and interestingly, all of them come from the Zenin clan. Naobito Zenin is the 26th head of the Zenin clan and is one of the most formidable sorcerers of his time. His control over projection sorcery, combined with his raw martial skill and insane timing, earned him the title of the fastest sorcerer alive, second only to Gojo. Projection sorcery is the Zenin clan's inherited technique. It lets the user divide 1 second into 24 frames, basically allowing them to plan out every move they'll execute within that single second. The technique uses his field of view as the frame's perspective, and anything he touches has to follow the same 24 frame rule. If they can't keep up, they freeze for a full second like they're stuck in an animation frame. He uses this move so fast he's nearly invisible to the naked eye while freezing enemies who can't react in time. Even without a domain expansion, Naobito can counter domains using a technique called Falling Blossom Emotion. He's so good at it that when he fought Dagon, the curse had to focus 70% of his death swarm just on Naobito to stand a chance. Despite being heavily injured, he still moved with precision and speed, dodging attacks from Jogo that could instantly incinerate others. Unfortunately, his fight with Jogo ended fatally. While retreating, Jogo unleashed volcanic blasts that burned Naobito alive. Before the killing blow, Jogo sent Sukuna's finger being released and left. Naobito was later taken back to the Zenin household, where he succumbed to his injuries. Oki Zenin, Naobito's younger brother and the father of Maki and Mai, also held the rank of Special Grade 1. His curse technique, Blazing Courage, lets him generate flames from his weapon. Using his katana, he can replace a broken blade with fire or boost its intensity to make it deadlier. Like Naobito, Ogi also knows Falling Blossom Emotion. After Naobito's death, his last will stated that if Gojo ever disappeared, Megumi Fushiguro would inherit the clan's leadership. Ogi took this personally. To undermine the will, he planned to use chaos after the Shibuya incident to label Megumi, Maki, and Mai as traitors who tried to free Gojo, giving himself an excuse to eliminate them. When Maki came to collect the cursed tools from the clan's warehouse, Ogi had already emptied it and injured Mai, leaving her alive as bait. When Maki entered, Ogi ambushed her, defeated her, and threw both sisters into the clan's cursed spirit pit, intending for them to die there. But Mai sacrificed her life to create a weapon for Maki and erase Maki's cursed energy, turning her into a being on par with Toji Fushiguro. When Maki climbed out of the pit with Mai's body, Ogi felt an overwhelming dread, recognizing the same presence Toji once had. He drew his sword and activated his technique, but it was already too late. Maki cut his head clean in half, killing him instantly. Naoya Zenin, Naobito's youngest son, was another special grade 1 sorcerer. He led the Zenin clan's elite unit, the Hei, and was considered one of the most gifted members of the big three families. He inherited projection sorcery just like his father and used it with terrifying efficiency. Naoya was furious when his father's will named Megumi as the next clan head, so he went to Shibuya to hunt down Yuji and eliminate Megumi as well. There he crossed paths with Choso, who defeated him with blood manipulation. Before Choso could kill him, Yuta appeared, knocked Choso out, and offered to heal Naoya in exchange for reporting Yuji's supposed death to the higher-ups. Naoya agreed and left Shibuya alive. After Mai's death, Naoya confronted Maki, believing he could overpower her, but Maki had already figured out how projection sorcery worked. She realized that as long as she made 24 movements per second, she could bypass its restrictions entirely. With that knowledge, she overwhelmed Naoya, smashed his face in, and left him for dead. While crawling away, Naoya was stabbed in the back by Maki's mother, who was mortally wounded herself. Since she didn't use cursed energy, Naoya couldn't defend himself and was killed instantly. But that wasn't the end of him. Because his death was so filled with hatred, Naoya transformed into a vengeful cursed spirit. As a curse, his projection sorcery evolved. His speed far surpassed his living self, and he gained the ability to fly. He attacked Maki and Noritoshi during the Culling game in the Sakurajima colony, moving too fast for either of them to land a hit. After taunting Maki about Mai's death, he was temporarily driven off by Noritoshi to buy Maki time. Naoya easily overpowered Noritoshi until two more fighters, Hagane Daido and Rokujushi Miyo, arrived. Their teamwork gave Maki the opening she needed to reach enlightenment. Her perception and reflexes skyrocketed, allowing her to move at speeds that even Naoya couldn't match. Desperate, Naoya unleashed his domain expansion, Time Cell Moon Palace. Inside this domain, projection sorcery targets an opponent's individual cells. Any attempt to move disrupts the cells and shreds their body from inside. Daido and Miyo are heavily wounded as Naoya takes control of the battle, but before he can finish them off, Maki appears behind him, stabbing through his chest with her katana. Because she has no cursed energy, the domain doesn't recognize her as a living being, making her immune to its effects. Maki ends it with a single upward slash, slicing him in half and exorcising him completely. The fourth and final special grade 1 from the Zenin clan is Junichi Zenin. Not much is known about him, but during Maki's rampage against the clan, Junichi attempts to subdue her with massive rapid punches while Ranta restrains her. His effort is completely ineffective, and Maki decapitates him shortly after, erasing another powerful Zenin from existence. Ungraded powerhouses. Ungraded sorcerers are fighters whose power hasn't been officially measured by Jujutsu High. They can be affiliated with the school or operate completely on their own, but what they all have in common is that they're strong enough to fight at high levels despite not having a formal rank. Most of the Culling game participants fall into this category. The Culling game itself is a deadly ritual organized by Kenjaku after the Shibuya incident. It's basically a massive battle royale meant to push humanity into a new stage of evolution through the accumulation of cursed energy. Hundreds of players, both sorcerers and newly awakened non-sorcerers, are thrown into 10 barrier colonies across Japan and forced to fight to the death for points. Every clash and kill generates cursed energy, which Kenjaku plans to use to merge humanity with Master Tengen, creating one unified immortal consciousness. To populate his game, Kenjaku didn't just rely on modern fighters. He also reincarnated ancient sorcerers by turning their remains into cursed objects long ago. These objects could either be consumed by a vessel or activated through specific Culling game rules, bringing the original sorcerers back to life in modern bodies with full memories and techniques intact. Kenjaku himself is an ancient curse user who has survived for over 1,000 years thanks to his innate technique, brain transplant. This technique allows him to transfer his brain into another person's body, even if they're already dead. The process leaves a horizontal stitch mark across the forehead that can't be healed, due to a binding vow. Once inside a host, Kenjaku gains their cursed energy, techniques, and memories. Even the Six Eyes can't detect him since he perfectly mimics the host's energy signature. Throughout history, Kenjaku has switched bodies multiple times. During the Heian era, he helped Sukuna survive after death by splitting his soul into 20 cursed objects, Sukuna's fingers. 400 years ago, he used another body to form binding vows with strong sorcerers for the Culling game. Later, he took over Noritoshi Kamo's body and began experimenting with fusing humans and curses, creating the Death Paintings. At another point, he possessed Kaori Itadori, Jin Itadori's partner, and used her body to give birth to Yuji, intending for him to serve as Sukuna's vessel. After Suguru Geto's death, Kenjaku transplanted his brain into Geto's body, giving him access to Geto's memories, techniques, and cursed spirit manipulation. Since then, he's operated under Geto's appearance, orchestrating the Culling game as the next stage of his grand plan. Uraume is another ancient curse user from the Heian era and a devoted follower of Sukuna. Their innate technique allows complete control over ice, shaping it in both small and massive quantities for offense or defense. They can unleash Frost Calm, a technique that exhales freezing mist capable of encasing enemies in solid ice. Uraume's loyalty to Sukuna and raw strength make them one of the oldest and most dangerous beings still active in the modern era. Hajime Kashimo is a reincarnated sorcerer from 400 years ago who was brought back through one of Kenjaku's contracts. His innate technique manipulates his flesh to produce electricity by converting cursed energy into electrical phenomena. When fully activated, Kashimo's body exceeds human limits, but the process destroys his physical form after one use. Despite that restriction, Kashimo's control over electricity in close quarters combat makes him one of the deadliest fighters in the Culling game. Angel is another ancient sorcerer from the Heian era who now coexists within the body of her modern vessel, Hana Kurusu. Unlike most reincarnated sorcerers, Angel doesn't dominate her host. She and Hana share control symbiotically. Angel's ability is unique. She can nullify any cursed technique, barrier, seal, or cursed object, even special grade ones like the Prison Realm. Her extension technique, Jacob's Ladder, summons a four-winged trumpet and creates a massive circle of light in the sky. When she sounds the trumpet, a pillar of purifying light descends, erasing anything cursed within its range. Angel's ability to completely undo cursed techniques makes her a critical figure in the story, especially regarding the goal of freeing Gojo from the Prison Realm. Yorozu is another reincarnated sorcerer from the Heian era and a former Jujutsu user from Aizu who is acknowledged by the Fujiwara clan. She was brought back using Sumiki Fushiguro's body as her vessel. Yorozu's innate technique allows her to recreate any material substance as long as she understands its composition. She demonstrated this by creating insect wings for flight, liquid metal for shaping weapons, insect armor for defense, and a perfectly stable true sphere, a construct that embodies pure stability. Her domain expansion, Threefold Affliction, is a strange, mostly blank space filled with large organic floating structures that look like insect brains. Within it, any of her created objects gains a sure hit effect, meaning her constructs will destroy anything inside if she wills it. Ryu Ishigori is another reincarnated sorcerer, originally from around 400 years ago. He has an enormous amount of cursed energy, enough to sustain domain expansions and continue fighting with full power afterward. His innate technique allows him to fire concentrated blasts of cursed energy from his pompadour, which acts like a cannon. He can continuously release energy without diminishing his strength, making him a relentless attacker who thrives in prolonged battles. Takako Uro is another sorcerer from roughly 1,000 years ago and the former captain of the Sun, Moon, and Star Squad, an assassin group under the Fujiwara family. Her innate technique lets her treat the sky as a solid manipulatable surface. She attacks by striking the air itself, shattering it like thin glass with her technique, Thin Icebreaker, which injures her target indirectly. She also has a domain expansion, and at one point she, Ryu, and Yuta simultaneously expanded their domains, resulting in a three-way clash that cancelled all of them out. Registar is another reincarnated sorcerer who appears during the Culling game. His innate technique works by burning contracts infused with cursed energy and recreating whatever is written on them. These recreated items function like Shikigami, objects that obey his will, but they disappear once their task is complete. Because of his massive cursed energy reserves, Reggie can use this ability repeatedly without tiring. His technique gives him endless versatility, allowing him to summon weapons, vehicles, or even entire structures mid-battle. Lastly, Iori Hazanoki is one of the ancient sorcerers reborn for the Culling game and possesses deep understanding of cursed energy manipulation, even generating positive energy. His innate technique, Explosive Flesh, lets him detonate his own body parts and use them as bombs. After each explosion, he regenerates the lost limbs using Reverse Curse technique, allowing him to repeat the process indefinitely. This combination of self-destruction and instant regeneration turns him into a walking chain of explosions capable of fighting continuously without wearing down. As mentioned earlier, Kenjaku doesn't just incarnate ancient sorcerers, he also awakens non-sorcerers using his innate technique, Idle Transfiguration. He targets two kinds of people, those who've swallowed cursed objects, and those who have a latent curse technique but need their brains adjusted to handle sorcery. This tweak allows them to access cursed energy and makes them eligible to join the Culling game. One of the most remarkable examples of these modern awakened sorcerers is Hirumi Higuruma, a defense attorney who completely lost faith in the justice system. His innate technique is automatically linked to his domain expansion, Deadly Sentencing. When activated, it forms a courtroom surrounded by guillotines where he and his opponent stand on opposite podiums. Instead of using a guaranteed hit, the domain forces both sides to follow its rules. Violence is prohibited, and anyone who tries to attack is instantly returned to their podium. Inside the courtroom floats Judgeman, a Shikigami that acts as the ultimate arbiter. Higuruma takes the role of prosecution, while his opponents become the defendant. Judgeman knows everything about everyone in the domain, but Higuruma only receives the evidence submitted for deliberation. The defendant doesn't even know what the evidence contains. During that trial, both sides make their case, and Judgeman delivers a verdict based solely on their arguments. The defendant can remain silent, confess, or deny the charges, and Higuruma gets one chance to respond before the judgment is made. These rules are enforced through a binding vow, tied to the domain. If Judgeman rules guilty, the penalty can be devastating, stripping the defendant of their ability to control curses entirely. Confiscation alone doesn't kill, but it leaves opponents wide open and defenseless, a perfect setup for execution. Then there's the death penalty, the most severe sentence Judgeman can give. When that happens, Higuruma receives a weapon called the Executioner's Sword, a transformed version of his gavel. The death penalty grants Higuruma the power to end a life in one clean strike. Another awakened participant in the Culling game is Fumihiko Takaba, a struggling comedian turned sorcerer by Kenjaku. His curse technique, Comedian, is as unpredictable as it sounds. Whatever Takaba believes will be funny becomes reality. The technique's potential is absurd, but Takaba himself is unaware of how broken it really is. His jokes manifest in real life, pulling others into the gag and forcing them to play along. The technique even feeds off the reactions and thoughts of those involved, a form of resonance that fuels its effects. But it all depends on Takaba's confidence. If he doubts himself or stops finding his own ideas funny, the ability simply won't work. Then there's Charles Bernard, an aspiring mangaka whose obsession with storytelling is reflected in his curse technique, G Warstaff. Like Higuruma and Takaba, his curse technique also mirrors his character entirely. G Warstaff appears as a long spear shaped like a pin, and his power activates when it draws an opponent's blood into its tip, treating it as ink. Once filled, he can use the ink to mark his target with a manga panel that shows their immediate future, starting with just 1 second ahead. The more blood he gathers, the further into the future he can see. This ability gives him a powerful edge in combat, letting him anticipate and counter his opponent's every move. Aside from the Culling game participants, there are a few others who don't really fit into the ranking system. These unique anomalies are usually labeled as ungraded. One of the most well-known is Toji Fushiguro. He's technically not even a sorcerer, but his heavenly restriction gives him insane physical abilities while completely stripping him of cursed energy. And that trade-off made him so fast, strong, and sharp that he could kill sorcerers who depended on their techniques. Known as the Sorcerer Killer, Toji uses cursed tools to fight, relying purely on instinct and athletic precision. His presence alone exposes a flaw in the Jujutsu hierarchy, proof that raw talent and experience can compete with cursed energy itself. Maki Zenin later becomes another exception to the system. After her sister Mai sacrifices herself to remove the curse of their shared cursed energy, her heavenly restriction fully awakens. Her body transforms into something inhumanly durable, with physical capabilities on the same level as Toji's. She gains perfect perception, able to see curses without needing glasses, and soon after wipes out the entire Zenin clan to avenge Mai's death. The sword her sister leaves behind is a replica of the split soul katana, capable of cutting directly at the soul, ignoring physical resistance. Officially, Maki remains a grade 4 sorcerer, but in reality her strength is closer to somewhere between grade 1 and special grade. And let's not forget Kenji Hikari, another ungraded figure whose strength caught even Gojo's attention. Hikari used to be a 3rd year student at Jujutsu High and fought in the night parade of 100 demons in Kyoto, but after beating up on one of the higher-ups during a disagreement, he got suspended and started running an underground fight club for sorcerers. When the culling game begins, Yuji and Megumi are sent to recruit him, hoping that he'll help them in exchange for legalizing his fight club and changing the regulations of the Jujutsu world. Hikari's innate technique, Private Pure Love Train, takes the form of a pachinko game inspired by a romance manga of the same name. It shines most through his domain expansion, Idle Death Gamble. Inside his domain, the area turns into a train station, where Hikari plays the game of chance, trying to line up 3 matching numbers with a 1 in 239 chance of hitting the jackpot. When he wins, he gains unlimited cursed energy for exactly 4 minutes and 11 seconds, the same length as the theme song from the manga's anime adaptation Admiring You. During this time, Hikari's body continuously uses reverse curse technique to heal any wound instantly, making him virtually unkillable until the song ends. This ability turns him into an unstoppable force in battle, and Gojo himself acknowledged his potential. Hikari proves his worth during the culling game, defeating the awakened sorcerer Charles Bernard and later overpowering the powerful ancient sorcerer Hajime Kashimo. After their fight, Hikari even convinces Kashimo to join their side. In the final battle against Sukuna, Hikari takes on Uraume and keeps them from interfering. The two fight evenly for an extended time until Sukuna's defeat, after which Uraume takes their own life. Special Grade. Special Grade is reserved for those whose power is so overwhelming that it can't even be measured by normal standards. These are the rare exceptions in the Jujutsu world, the total outliers in the ranking system, which is why Grade 1 is still considered the highest official rank. As of 2018, only 4 sorcerers are officially recognized as Special Grade: Satoru Gojo, Suguru Geto, Yuta Okatsu, and Yuki Tsukumo. Gojo is widely regarded as the strongest sorcerer alive. He's the pride of the Gojo clan and the first person in 400 years to inherit both the Limitless Technique and the Six Eyes. He works as a teacher at Tokyo Jujutsu High, training the next generation of sorcerers while casually redefining what it means to be overpowered. His inherited technique, Limitless, gives him control over space itself at an atomic level. It has multiple forms, starting with Infinity, which creates a barrier that slows down anything approaching him. It's not that attacks stop before reaching him, they just slow infinitely, never actually making contact. He can keep Infinity active automatically thanks to his mastery of Reverse Curse technique, which keeps his brain refreshed and prevents fatigue. By adding negative curse energy, he can amplify Limitless into Blue, a technique that creates a vacuum and pulls everything nearby into a crushing gravitational collapse. The opposite version, Red, uses positive energy from Reverse Curse technique to unleash a massive repulsive blast, and when he combines both, he creates Hollow Technique Purple, which erases everything in his path by generating imaginary mass. His Six Eyes enhances perception to an insane degree, allowing him to see cursed energy in detail, detect techniques, and manipulate his own energy with perfect efficiency. This means that he loses almost no cursed energy when using techniques, giving him absurd stamina in battle. The Six Eyes also makes mastering Limitless possible, as the two techniques work hand in hand. His domain expansion, Unlimited Void, traps his enemies in a metaphysical space that overwhelms them with endless information, freezing their mind and body. He's skilled enough to activate it for only 0.2 seconds, making it lethal without overdoing it. Inside his domain, opponents are completely immobilized, while he and anyone he touches remains unaffected. Gojo shares the Special Grade title with his former best friend, Geto. Once a student at Tokyo Jujutsu High alongside Gojo and Shoko Ieri, Geto was a gifted sorcerer who became disillusioned with the world. His hatred for non-sorcerers eventually led him to massacre over 100 civilians in one night, earning him the title of Worst Curse User. His innate technique, Curse Spirit Manipulation, allows him to absorb and control cursed spirits by turning them into small orbs and consuming them. He can even take over another sorcerer's curse technique if he kills them first. His maximum technique, Uzumaki, fuses thousands of curses into a single devastating attack. During his battle with Yuta, he uses over 4,000 curses at once in an attempt to steal Rika's power. The plan fails, leaving him critically injured. Gojo later finds him, and after a brief moment between the two, Gojo ends his life. Gojo refuses to hand over Geto's body to Jujutsu High, which leads to Kenjaku taking it over using his brain transplant technique, giving Kenjaku access to Geto's abilities. That said, the Jujutsu High student who took down Geto also falls under this category. Yuta's story begins with the tragic death of his childhood friend, Rika Orimoto, who became a cursed spirit after being killed in an accident. Her lingering attachment to Yuta transformed her into one of the most powerful vengeful spirits ever recorded. Haunted by Rika for years, Yuta isolates himself to avoid hurting others. Eventually, he's brought to Tokyo Jujutsu High by Gojo, who postpones his execution and trains him to control his curse. Over time, Yuta learns to channel Rika's power and use it to fight, eventually freeing her soul and allowing her to pass on peacefully. Even after Rika's departure, Yuta retains the ability to summon her in a controlled form. Through her, he can access an immense supply of cursed energy, store cursed tools, and even copy other people's techniques. His innate technique lets him replicate abilities from sorcerers whose body parts Rika has consumed, including Toge's cursed speech, Angel Jacob's ladder, Takako's sky manipulation, and even Sukuna's shrine. During the final battle with Sukuna, Yuta uses Kenjaku's brain-hopping technique to take over Gojo's body, allowing him to wield Limitless and even use Gojo's unlimited void. He also has his own domain expansion, Authentic Mutual Love, which takes the form of a field filled with countless katanas bound by ropes symbolizing love. Inside it, he can freely use all the techniques he's copied, and each copied technique can serve as the domain's sure-hit effect. The fourth special grade sorcerer is Yuki Tsukumo, a mysterious figure often seen as an outsider. She doesn't take missions for Jujutsu High and operates independently, which gives her a reputation as the only special grade sorcerer not affiliated with the system. Yuki's innate technique, Star Rage, allows her to give herself and her Shikigami Garuda virtual mass. This massively boosts the force behind her attacks, letting her strike with enough power to destroy a special grade curse in a single hit. Garuda serves as both a Shikigami and a weapon, working in sync with her enhanced physical strength. During the Colon game, Yuki protects Master Tengen and confronts Kenjaku in battle. She unleashes everything she has, even creating a black hole with Star Reggae in an attempt to kill him. Kenjaku survives by using Kiari Itadori's anti-gravity system, which allows him to negate the gravitational pull. Yuki dies in the aftermath, while Kenjaku captures Tengen to continue his plan of merging humanity with them. Apart from these four, Sukuna is also a perfect example of what it means to be a special grade, a being so overwhelmingly strong that the usual sorcerer ranking system can't even measure him. Known as the King of Curses, he originally lived during the Heian era, the so-called Golden Age of Jujutsu. Back then, Sukuna wasn't a curse but a human sorcerer, feared across the land as a disgraced one for slaughtering countless opponents who dared to face him. His power was so great that even after death he refused to disappear. Instead, he turned himself into a cursed object, splitting his soul and cursed energy into 20 indestructible fingers to ensure his survival. Centuries later, Sukuna's return begins when Yuji accidentally swallows one of those fingers in June of 2018. From that point on, Sukuna lives inside Yuji, slowly gaining fragments of his strength with each finger consumed. For most of this time, he's trapped within Yuji's body, unable to take control freely, but that changes when he transfers his soul into Megumi Fushiguro, fully resurrecting himself and returning to his true form. Sukuna's curse technique, Shrine, allows him to unleash invisible slashes that can cut through anything, whether it's at close range or from a distance. This technique also gives him the power to create devastating flames under specific conditions. His first attack, Dismantle, is his basic slashing move. He fires it at incredible speed, slicing through objects, curses, and sorcerers alike. Later, using from what he learned from Maharaga's adaptation Limitless, he evolves Dismantled into a terrifying version capable of cutting through space and existence itself. The slashes that cut the world. This is the very move he uses to kill Gojo, slicing him in half despite Infinity's protection. His second attack, Cleave, adjusts its cutting power automatically based on the toughness and cursed energy of his target, ensuring that it always delivers a lethal strike. Unlike Dismantle, Cleave typically requires physical contact unless he uses it inside his domain. There's also Spiderweb, an extension of Cleave that targets the terrain instead of living beings. By touching the ground, he sends slashing energy across an area in a web-like pattern, splitting everything apart in seconds. After using Dismantle and Cleave, he can activate another technique called Divine Flame. It lets him form cursed flames into arrow-like projectiles for long-range attacks. However, Divine Flames isn't as fast and has limited range, so he compensates by placing a binding vow on himself. This vow prevents him from using Divine Flame on multiple targets unless he's inside his domain. The trade-off greatly enhances his domain's destructive potential. His domain expansion, Malevolent Shrine, materializes a massive skull-covered shrine that becomes the epicenter of destruction. Within this domain, everything without cursed energy is automatically targeted by Dismantled, while anything with cursed energy is hit with Cleave. Once the domain is active, every target except Sukuna himself is relentlessly slashed until the expansion ends. What makes Malevolent Shrine even more dangerous is its unique structure. Unlike most domains that create a closed barrier to trap enemies, Sukuna's domain manifests directly into the environment without any enclosure. By letting an opportunity to escape, he forms a binding vow that massively increases the sure hit range to nearly 200 meters. Because there's no defined barrier, the domain can't be destroyed or dispelled through conventional means. The only way to end it is by injuring Sukuna so severely that he can no longer maintain it. This open domain structure gives him a tactical edge in domain clashes. When his domain overlaps with another, Malevolent Shrine's sheer size allows it to strike at an opponent's barrier from the outside, destroying it and canceling their domain completely. Combined with the explosive energy from Divine Flame that fills the area, the domain turns everything within range into a fiery death zone of shockwaves and pressurized destruction. And as if the shrine wasn't devastating enough, Sukuna's power grows even further after he takes over Megumi's body and inherits the 10 Shadows technique. This grants him access to 10 different Shikigami, each summoned through his shadow. During his fight with Gojo, he summons Mahoraga, the 10 Shadows' most powerful Shikigami, and Merge Beast Agito, a fusion of Nu, Great Serpent, Round Deer, and Tiger Funeral. Mahoraga's adaptation ability becomes the key to Sukuna's victory, allowing him to counter Infinity and land the killing blow on Gojo. Even when severely injured after that fight, Sukuna keeps going. He continues to battle the combined forces of Jujutsu sorcerers led by Yuji, pushing through their attacks until he's finally overwhelmed. In the end, it's Megumi's willpower and Yuji's final Black Flash that sealed the King of Curses' fate, bringing his reign of terror to an end once and for all. Now, you're probably wondering why Yuji, the main character of Jujutsu Kaisen, isn't on the list. The reason is pretty simple. He's never been formally promoted because the grading process kept getting interrupted by all the chaos happening in the story. At the start, Yuji was roughly between grade 4 and grade 3 level, but after training under Gojo and syncing more efficiently with Sukuna's cursed energy, his growth skyrocketed. By the time of the Shibuya incident, he was already going toe-to-toe with special grade threats like Mahito. Even without a cursed technique back then, his combat skills, quick thinking, and insane endurance were already surpassing most grade 1 sorcerers. He was practically a human tank running purely on cursed energy control. Things went up another notch after Sukuna took over his body and Yuji managed to reclaim it. He awakened his own innate cursed technique, one connected to Sukuna's shrine, and the other to the Death Painting's blood manipulation. On top of that, he can consistently use Black Flash, landing it up to 7 times in a row and a total of 18 times overall, which is almost unheard of. He's even capable of using Reverse Curse Technique, a skill that only the best sorcerers can handle properly. During his replacement training with Kusakabe, he also learned the basics of barrier techniques and eventually developed his own domain expansion. His domain recreates his hometown in detail, everything from local landmarks to places he used to visit, and even animals like horses, geese, and crayfish. The sure hit effect lets him attack his targets with dismantle directly at the soul level, no physical contact needed. And then there's this fight against Sukuna. Yuji doesn't just play a supporting role, he's the key reason that Sukuna is finally defeated. He lands the final Black Flash, freeing Megumi's soul and ending the King of Curses once and for all. Considering his strength, techniques, and achievement, Yuji is easily special grade material now, right up there with Yuta and other top tier sorcerers.